This video is sponsored by UPDF. In 2024, the EU member states did something almost unthinkable. They sent 22 billion euros to Moscow for fossil fuels, while at the very same time giving only 19 billion euros of support to Kyiv. That means the European Union is literally paying Russia more than it gives Ukraine, even as the war rages on its doorstep, funding both sides of the conflict. How is that even possible? The answer is simple: gas. Russian gas. And despite everything, many European capitals are still buying it. It hasn't gone unnoticed in Washington either. Trump is now threatening to tie US sanctions on Russia to whether Europe actually acts.
They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that.
And honestly, he has a point. Almost 4 years into this war, and Europe is still hooked on Russian energy. But Brussels insists change is now finally coming.
We know what drove prices up. That was dependency on Russian fossil fuels. So it's time to get rid of dirty Russian fossil fuels completely.
So, in this video, we'll break it all down. Why the EU is still buying so much Russian gas, what Brussels plans to do about it, and of course, my take at the very end. Let's get into it. European dependency on Russian gas is still far from over. First, there's the Turk Stream gas pipeline from Russia through Slovakia and into Hungary. And second, there's the Druzhba oil pipeline via Ukraine into Slovakia. And both are still operating today. For example, 80% of natural gas imported into Hungary is Russian, and Slovakia is considering getting 100% of its natural gas from Russia next year. Not cool, Slovakia. But Russian imports don't stop there. France, Spain, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands are also importing Russian energy in the form of LNG. In the first 4 months of 2024, 32% of Spanish LNG imports came from Russia. In Belgium, this was 49%, while in France, 27%, and in Italy, around 1 to 2%. Now, to be fair, the EU overall has cut way back. Only a few years ago, almost half of Europe's gas came from Russia, and today it's less than a fifth. That's a massive shift, but the problem is far from gone, and this really matters, because every euro we spend on Russian gas helps fund the war in Ukraine. And we actually spoke with Commissioner Don Jurgensen, the EU's top official for energy and housing, and he put it super plainly.
So we have to say to Russia, stop. We will no longer import your energy. So that's why I've proposed to ban import of Russian gas.
Well done, we couldn't agree more. Words are super nice, but how do we actually do this? Now, before we jump to solutions, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the sponsor of today's video, UPDF. I'm sure you know how much it sucks dealing with PDFs. Well, meet UPDF 2.0, the all-in-one PDF editor that finally makes PDFs tolerable. Maybe even fun. With UPDF, you can actually edit anything inside a PDF file, text or images. And if there's an annoying watermark, you can add one or remove it in seconds. UPDF AI Assistant can summarize long PDFs without changing formats instantly, and even run deep research to pull key points with cited sources right inside of your file. Reading is easy too. You get clean reading modes, eye protection, and even some custom skins so your PDFs match your vibe. And if you're an annotator, you can highlight, underline, or drop notes. And organizing, super easy too. You can delete, reorder, or insert pages with just a few clicks. And the very best part is that it works on every platform. One account, 4 devices, and lifetime updates. It's faster and safer and 1/6 the price of Adobe. So if you want to stop fighting with PDFs and actually enjoy working with them, grab UPDF 2.0 from the link in the description and enjoy our limited time offer. Back to the video. Commissioner Jurgensen has a plan.
So instead of being 27 different countries with 27 different energy systems, we're trying to unite so that we have one energy system. This will be of great benefit to all Europeans because it will mean that energy prices will go down.
The Commission has identified 8 major bottlenecks in Europe's grid and mapped out 8 major energy highways to fix these. Or as Jurgensen puts it,
you compare to a bottleneck, like if you have a bottle of ketchup, right? So the bottleneck means that you have to do like this, tick, 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 and then the ketchup will flow. Same with energy. There's some bottlenecks where we have to Push it a little bit
Right.
and then the energy will flow.
Love the example, Don. And what this really means is linking up our energy grids between countries. Think of the big high voltage transmission lines that carry electricity to power things like your TV. They can run overhead on pylons or be buried underground. And Don's team has identified 5 connections as a priority. First, connect Iberia and France. This will reduce the chance of more power cuts in the region, as we saw only a couple of months ago. Second, connect Cyprus with continental Europe. Third, strengthen power links in the Baltic states. This includes a connection to Poland and cutting connections with Russia. Fourth, improve energy supplies in the Balkan region by connecting its power grids. And fifth, turn the North Sea into an offshore interconnector hub, which basically allows countries in the North Sea to share their production capacity. Then there's a second group of measures focused on hydrogen, which can be stored and transported like gas, basically by pipelines, ships, or trucks, making it easier to move than electricity and allowing countries to produce and use it domestically. And this brings us to our 6th and 7th highway. A south hydrogen corridor connects Germany to the Mediterranean, and a second southwest hydrogen corridor from Portugal all the way to Germany. And finally, we have improving price stability, which is a byproduct of all the above points combined with financial tools. So, that's the overview of the 8 highways. But it's only half of Jurgensen's plan. You see, as part of the 19th sanctions package, the Commission also proposes banning Russian LNG imports into the EU a year earlier than expected, by January the 1st, 2027. This gives Spain, Belgium, France, Italy, and the Netherlands just over a year to phase out their purchases. But, and this is a big but, when it comes to Hungary and Slovakia, the picture is very different. To our knowledge, there are no concrete plans to cut off their access to Russian crude or gas via the Druzhba or Turkstream pipelines. And the reason is simple. Such measures require unanimous approval in the Council of the EU, and Hungary or Slovakia would almost certainly veto anything targeting their pipeline supplies. Still though, they may prove more flexible when it comes to a ban on Russian LNG. So, these are the plans for EU energy. But why should you care? First, to prevent its use as a weapon. The less Europe depends on energy imports from places like Russia, the harder it is for anyone to use it as a political weapon. Second, cheaper energy. A connected grid means less waste, more competition, and lower costs. That translates into lower energy bills for people like you and me. Third, removing dependency. The dependency on foreign gas imports, not just Russian by the way, leaves us super vulnerable. Divesting will allow for more European autonomy. And finally, green energy. If we produce our energy at home, we have full control over our energy mix. And if we want to, we can make this completely focused on renewable green energy. Here's my opinion. We need to cut off Russian gas. Now. It's so absurd that parts of Europe are still buying it, including my home country. Every euro spent on that gas is money that fuels the very war we're helping Ukraine fight. It should have been banned years ago. And with Russia escalating with drones and planes in Poland and Estonia, it's finally time we do all we can against the Putin regime. But this is crucial. We can't just swap one dependency for another. The new US-EU trade deal includes around 750 billion euros in investment into American gas. Think about it. Replacing 22 billion euros a year of Russian energy with $250 billion a year for American gas. Is that really a smart idea? I don't think so. And I hope it does not happen. And let's be honest. For Hungary and Slovakia, it's a disgrace they're still so reliant on Russia. But the problem is that sanctions and energy decisions often need unanimity, and national governments still hold almost all the power here. But Brussels isn't completely helpless. It has indirect levers, tying EU funds to compliance, or offering a carrot and stick mix of money and infrastructure. Messy, slow, and political. But still, real tools to force change if there's the will. But in the long term, we really need to move away from unanimity and to qualified majority voting. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out UPDF, the all-in-one PDF editor that finally makes PDFs tolerable and changeable. We've left the link in our description. Thank you to our presidents, Jan Chauke Christian Peter HEVD, Daniel Steffen Kiki Loksen, and Unite Europe. See you in the next video.